now we will learn the theories of evolution. There are four main theories that for evolution. First, the Lamarck's theory of inheritance of acquired character, that we will discuss later, but first we have to know the theories. Next, Darwin's theory of natural selection. Third, mutation theory by Hugo de Vries. Next, neo-Darwinism or modern theory of synthetic theory. Neo-Darwinism, modern theory or synthetic theory. Okay, there are three names. So first we will learn the Lamarck theory. Lamarck's theory totally based on the theory of inheritance of acquired characters. Okay. The first attempt to explain the origin of species and their adaptation to the environment was done by French naturalist. The full name is Jean-Baptiste de Lamarck. Okay, the full name, and he was proposed this theory during 1829 in this year. Okay. He gave the first theory of evolution known as Lamarckism, and the theory of his is also known as Lamarckism. So, Lamarck published his theory in 1809 in his famous book. So, Lamarck, in the year 1809, the same year of Darwin's birth, his famous book Philosophic Zoologic, he also introduced certain terms such as invertebrate, vertebrates and annelida in his book. So first we will learn about what are the postulates of Lamarckism, means on what basis Lamarck give his theory. In first we will see new needs, use and disuse, inheritance of acquired character, then speciation. So what is the meaning of it? New needs means due to a change in the environmental condition, there are new requirements that arise. Okay, suppose there is any change in the environment and that's why new characteristics that arise, that organism will, for that new characteristic, the organisms who live in this environment, they will adapt, right? So due to this they will use and disuse some organs. Okay, and due to some use and disuse some organ, some inheritance of acquired character will develop in their body, and that's why the new species will come, that we'll call speciation. So one by one these topics are related. মানে কি বললাম, ভাবো কখনো এনভায়রনমেন্টালে কোনো একটা চেঞ্জ হলো, সেই নিউ নিডস, ভাবো এনভায়রনমেন্টালে ডিউ টু দ্য চেঞ্জ দেয়ার নিউ রিকোয়ারমেন্টসের জন্য এনভায়রনমেন্টে নতুন কিছু চেঞ্জ হলো, সেই এনভায়রনমেন্টে যেই অর্গানিজমসগুলো আছে তারা কি করবে, ইউজ করবে কিছু তাদের বডির কিছু পার্টস তারা ইউজ করবে নতুন করে, যেটা আগে ইউজ করতো না, বা যেটা আগে ইউজ করতো সেটাকে আর ইউজ করবে না, ডিসইউজ। তার এই জন্য তাদের বডিতে নতুন একটা ক্যারেক্টারিস্টিক আসবে, সেই ক্যারেক্টারিস্টিকটাকে আমরা বলবো অ্যাকওয়ার্ড ক্যারেক্টারিস্টিক। সেই অ্যাকওয়ার্ড ক্যারেক্টারিস্টিকটা ফ্রম ওয়ান জেনারেশন টু নেক্সট জেনারেশনে পাস হবে, অ্যান্ড দ্যাট ইজ নোন অ্যাজ স্পিসিস। তার জন্য যে নতুন স্পিসিস হবে দ্যাট ইজ কল্ড দ্য স্পিসিয়েশন। ওকে, সো নাও ফর দিস উই নিড সাম এক্সাম্পল। ফর সাপোজ ফর জিরাফ যখন তারা আগে, মানে জিরাফ ওয়ান টাইপ অফ হর্সই ছিল, কিন্তু তারা যখন তারা যে এনভায়রনমেন্টে থাকতো সেখানে কী ছিল, শুধুই মাত্র ঘাস ছিল, ঠিক আছে, শুধুমাত্র ঘাস। তো তারা নেকটাকে নিচু করে ঘাস খেত, কিন্তু তারপরে তাদের এনভায়রনমেন্টে একটা চেঞ্জ এলো, সেই চেঞ্জে যেন নতুন নতুন বড় বড় গাছ তারা পেলো, মানে গাছের যে ঘাসগুলো, যে ঘাস লেভেলটা, ঘাস অত ছিল না, সেখানে নতুন এনভায়রনমেন্টে বড় বড় ট্রিজ এলো, তারা তাদের নেকটাকে এবার ইউজ করা শুরু করলো। নেকটাকে ইউজ করে তাদের কি হলো, তাদের যে ফ্রন্ট লিম্বসগুলো, দে ইউজ দ্য ফ্রন্ট টু লিম্বস, তারা সেই ফ্রন্ট লিম্বসগুলোকে ইউজ করলো, তাদের হাইট ইনক্রিজ হলো, তাদের নেকটা অনেক লম্বা হলো, তারপর তারা গাছের পাতাগুলো খেতে লাগলো, ঠিক আছে। এরপর যে নতুন যে স্পিসিস এলো, তার মানে তারা ইউজ কোন অর্গানগুলোকে করলো, দে ইউজ দ্য ফ্রন্ট টু লিম্বস, তাই তো, তাদের নেক এগুলোকে তারা ইউজ করলো, তার জন্য নতুন যে ক্যারেক্টারিস্টিকটা এলো, অ্যাকোয়ার্ড হলো তাদের লং নেক, লং ফ্রন্ট লিম্বস, তাই তো। আর সেটা কি হলো, সেই অ্যাকওয়ার্ড ক্যারেক্টারটা ওয়ান জেনারেশন টু নেক্সট জেনারেশনে চলতে থাকলো, ঠিক আছে, মানে ওই ক্যারেক্টারিস্ট ওরকম লম্বা জিরাফই আবার নেক্সট জেনারেশনেও এলো। তো এটাই হচ্ছে এক্সাম্পল দিয়ে ল্যামার্ক বুঝিয়েছিল। You see the example of new needs effect. Continuous change in the environmental condition directly influence the nature, habits, way of living of an organism and their natural structural organization. For example, early giraffe used to feed the grasses on the grasses, as I told you, other surface plants of an area, other surface plants on the area. With time, the climate in this area become arid. It means that the grasses and other surface vegetation dried up, leaving only the few taller trees. Only, so there was only few taller trees, grass was not there. The environmental change that takes place means the new needs develop. Thus, the leaves of these tall trees were the only food available to ancestors. This is called the doctrine of desirity, means now they need to change their old characters. So each giraffe probably had short necks which they stretched to reach all the trees when the grasses dried up due to the climate. Then which organ they used? The old growth of less used parts decline while that of better used part progresses. For example, to fulfill their new needs, the giraffe continuously stretched their neck to reach to the taller trees. As the neck was comprehensively used to reach the trees, its permanent elongation took place and the characteristic was called the acquired characteristic. Next, this characteristic is will call the inheritance of acquired characteristic. The growth of organ acquired during the lifetime of an organism is the heredity, right? It is now this character is will when this is in the present in their gene. So one generation to next generation, this long leg, long limb, front to long limb will come from one generation to next generation, but their ancestor was not like this, as in the case of giraffes where the acquired character long neck was transmitted in the next generation. So this is the example in support of Lamarckism. Now other example was their snakes. The present day limbless snakes with long slender body were developed from the limbed ancestor. So in before, snake was limbed, but nowadays there is limbless snakes with long slender body. This is due to the continued disuse of limbs and stretching of their body. So use and disuse, the second postulate was use and disuse. So here they do not use the limbs, that's why it's become a vestigial organ. Due to this continued disuse of lymph and stretching of their body to suit their creeping mode of locomotion, and so they continue disuse of and the stretching, now they stretch their body, that's why the present day their body is slender. Okay, so they are in the creeping mode of locomotion, that's why this we see this. Now aquatic birds like duck, geese, etc. develop their terrestrial ancestor by the inheritance of acquired characters like reduction of wings due to their continuous disuse. So aquatic birds, they do not use their wings development, but they have used their feet, and that's why a new characteristic developed, that's why they have the webbed feet, the waves between their toes for wading purpose, etc. These changes were mainly introduced due to the deficiency of food on land and severe competition. So they can't live in land because there was a deficiency of food on land, that's why there was competition, that's why they come in aquatic environment, and the new characteristic, that is webbed foot, they have developed. But they in water they can't fly, that's why they don't use their wings, that's why wings become their vestigial organ. What is vestigial organ? The organ which we will not use, at a time will come it will be extinct from our body, that is known as vestigial organ. Flightless bird. The development of flightless birds like ostrich from flying ancestors is considered due to the continued disuse of the wings. So you see, the flightless bird, they do not use their wings, as they were found in well protected area with plenty of food. They don't need to fly. That's why ostrich and their bodies become very heavy also. That's why they don't fly. Okay, so they do not use their wings. This is the reason, because in where they live there were enough food. You see, considered due to the disuse of the wings, as they were found in well protected area with plenty of food. Yes, this is the environmental change. Now there are few examples are there. Flat fishes. These are deep sea fishes present at the bottom of the sea where there is no sunlight. They laid on inactive lying on the side of the body. So that's why they only lie on the side of the body. So they are very inactive because they are deep sea fishes present at the bottom of the sea. There is no sunlight, so they do not show any activity. So this is the environmental condition, and they laid an inactive light. Why? Because there is no sunlight there, that's why the body becomes unfunctional. That's why. Whales, they lost their hind limbs as well, consequence of their disuse. So they also do not use their hind limbs. Wading birds, as we know, the development of long legs through the generation of sustained stretching to keep their body above the water level. Example, jacaranda bird. So these are some example. You will remember that example. So these are all the evidence and all the support, the example, that all the support for Lamarckism. Okay, because Lamarck told that the theory of inheritance awkward character was explained. Awkward character means this awkward character due to the change giraffe develop their long neck. This is the awkward character. So Lamarck tell this thing. But there are some criticism of Lamarckism. Some scientists prove that the Lamarck theory was not the correct one. So there was some other theory, and they also gave the example to criticize Lamarck. Okay, so first we will learn the Lamarckism, the criticism of Lamarck. For criticism, the first scientist, that is August Weismann, he tells the theory of continuity of germplasm layer. So what did he tell? That he done some experiment with rat. He cut the tail of a rat, two rat, and reproduced them, and she observed the first generation. Okay, so two cut rat reproduce, and they produce, the offspring was rat with a tail. Okay, again first generation offsprings, they cut their tail. The scientists cut their tail, again reproduce, and their second generation offsprings were also with tail. Again the second generation offsprings, he cut their tail and again reproduce. The fourth generation offsprings were also have tail. So in this way he done the experiment study. He do these things for 20 generations, and he study the result of 20 generation. Every time a tail rat is coming, so that's why it is not an awkward character, right? It is cut, we are cutting the tail. He was cutting the tail, but the offsprings with the tail. So this is not an awkward character, right? But Lamarck told this is an awkward character, right? Just like giraffe, we have seen all the examples that were awkward. Now Pavlov's experiment. Pavlov was a scientist who done the experiment with dog. Every time he rang a bell and give the dog food, and the dog salivate. In this way he done this thing for several times, and he saw that when the bell was rang and the dog know now he will get the food, that's why the dog salivate, right? So in this way Pavlov done the experiment. But when the dog reproduce, their মানে ফার্স্ট জেনারেশন অফস্প্রিংস ওয়ার নট লাইক দিস, কি মানে তারাও যে ওই প্যাভলভ কী করেছিল, ওই ডগটাকে যে বেল বাজিয়ে যে খাবারটা দিচ্ছিল, ও জেনে গেছিলো আমি বেল বাজলেই খাবারটা পাবো, তো এরকমভাবে সে অনেকবার এই জিনিসটা করলো। কিন্তু তার সেই ডগটা যখন রিপ্রোডিউস করলো, সেই রিপ্রোডিউসের সময় কিন্তু তার মধ্যে এই ক্যারেক্টারিস্টিকটা এলো না যে ও বেল বাজলেই খাবার পাবে, সেটা এলো না। তাকে ওইটা শেখাতে হলো সেই ডগটাকেও যে বেল বাজার পরেই তোমাকে খাবার দেওয়া হবে, ওই যে বেল বাজালেই যে সে স্যালাইভেট করছে সেটা না, ও বেল বাজালে খাবার দিল, খাবারটা দেখে স্যালাইভেট করতে। এই জিনিসটা প্র্যাকটিস করতে 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 ওই নেক্সট জেনারেশন ডগটার মধ্যে এলো ক্যারেক্টারিস্টিক যে হ্যাঁ আমি জানি বেল বাজালেই খাবারটা পাবো। কিন্তু রিপ্রোডিউস করলে মানে ওই যে ডগটা রিপ্রোডিউস করলে এই ক্যারেক্টারিস্টিকটা অটোমেটিকলি তার মধ্যে চলে আসছে না। সো দিস ইজ অলসো দ্য criticism for Lamarck experiment. Next, Whistlers, their muscles are very well developed, but their children or the child, when they reproduce their child, in their child, these characteristics, we can't see this characteristic. Now Whistler muscles are very strong, but their children's muscles is not so strong. When they do the exercise, then their muscle will be strong. So again, this is one example. Boring or nose or ear, when we pierce our nose or ear, we know this is not an awkward characteristic. When we reproduce in our children, when we give birth to offspring, in their ear and nose, the piercing was not there from first, right? So আমরা যখন রিপ্রোডিউস করি, আমরা যখন জন্মাই, তারপরে আমরা নোজ ইয়ার পিয়ার্সিং করি, তারপরে যখন আমরা নতুন একটা উই গিভ বার্থ টু ইয়ং ওয়ান, সেই বাচ্চাটার মধ্যেও কিন্তু সেই পিয়ার্সিং ব্যাপারটা কিন্তু জন্মের থেকেই আসে না, তাকে আবার করতে হয়। সো দিস ইজ নট অ্যান অ্যাকওয়ার্ড ক্যারেক্টার। In China, you know, one of the famous objections to Lamarck's theory came from the German biologist August Weismann. That experiment I told you the China experiment I'm telling you later. He cut the tail of newborn mice for 22 generations, but could neither get a tailless mice nor the mice developed a shorter tail. Theory of continuity of germplasm theory, we call it, was proposed by the August Weismann. He performed an experiment by cutting the tails of mice for about 22 generations, but tailless mice were never born. He criticized the Lamarck theory of inheritance of aquatic characters. Right, this is not an awkward character. If it was awkward character, so we will get a tailless mice. Based on the observation, he suggests that the changes occurring in the germplasm are inherited by the offspring, whereas those in stomatoplasm are not transferred to the next generation. Okay, so this is not an awkward character. In China, despite of use of iron shoe to keep their feet short, in China, baby's small short feet was a goodwill, মানে তাদের কাছে সেটা খুব ভালো জিনিস যে বাচ্চাদের স্মল ফিট হবে, তাই জন্য তারা কী করতো, আয়রন শু তাদেরকে পরিয়ে রাখতো। কিন্তু তারপরে সেই শর্ট ফিট যে বেবিগুলো যখন বড় হলো, তখন যারা রিপ্রোডিউস করলো, তখন কিন্তু তাদের বেবির মধ্যে কিন্তু শর্ট ফিট দেখা দিত না। সো দ্য ইয়ং ওয়ান্স অ্যাট বার্থ গেভ নর্মাল ফিট সাইজ। সো দিস ইজ নট অ্যান অ্যাকওয়ার্ড ক্যারেক্টার। সো দিস আর অল criticism of Lamarckism. Okay, so this is the Lamarck theory. In the next part we will learn the Darwin theory.